an agency that, you know, none of us have maybe the strongest reputation in the media, the public, in a lot of ways. We were sort of an agency with a lot of questions around us. We had some new leadership. We had some lot of changes. The week I started, the City Council passed some legislation to implement a whole laundry list of reforms, and so there was sort of some attention on, you know, what were we going to do, how are we going to take these things, a lot of a kind of, you know, who are these new people at the DC Board of Elections, and one thing that we did do consciously in using social media and going out there was to try to brand ourselves a little differently. There was sort of a branding exercise that came into play in saying that we're doing some new and different things with our website, we're doing some new and different things with social media, you know, we're a new agency. There was an element of that. But I don't know that that's necessarily the right reasons for it. You can get sort of there's sort of this honeymoon period right now in social media, I think, where you get some credit, you kind of get some kudos with the people who are into social media for becoming one of the, you know, one of the people, one of the agencies that are out there and using these things, and I've gotten really no criticism, even where we've stumbled or where we have, you know, not consistently used the social media to get information out, because I really think that there's government agencies sort of have a pass right now to be able to do some experimentation, to be able to play with things, and I think it's kind of a nice period, a nice opportunity to be able to do that. And we've definitely gotten some good, you know, media hits that we wouldn't have gotten had we been sharing the information just with a press release. But the fact that we launched a Twitter feed was like news story worthy. You know, it's something that there's definitely an element to that right now, which is real, and which you can use to your advantage. But it's also something that is not. I don't think it's necessarily the best reason. And if you're going to launch social media only for that kind of a reason, to kind of be one of the new cool kids, or, you know, I don't think that's a thought process that by itself is really going to succeed. And I think that there are a lot of government agencies, and in my own thought process of figuring out how to use social media, I've certainly seen government agencies that I think have stumbled with this, and that what I have seen has affected my own decisions and how we went about things. And you know, the thing about really big social media stumbles, I realized in putting together this presentation, is that people take them down. So I've now learned that if I'm going to like capture some social media stumble to use in a presentation someday, I better capture it while I see it. But to me, and I don't know how anybody else, you know, those of you who are here based in D.C., but the D.C. Metro folks have just kind of been an exercise for me in watching how not to do social media. I mean, I think they've sort of maybe done some things a little better more recently, but as I was sort of forming my attitudes about this and deciding, well, were we going to launch a Twitter feed? Were we going to launch Facebook? Was I ready to make that commitment to, you know, the care and feeding of this social media presence? I was seeing this kind of thing where, you know, and this is last night, their website, and it's full of these like really long status updates that don't fit in 140 characters, and half of the time you can't really even see what it is that they're announcing, and it's like they're sort of doing you this disservice by thinking that you want it this way, and it's so obvious that they're not connecting with you. They launched a Facebook page, and I apologize for, you know, trashing anybody here who, you know, is involved with the, you know, Metro, but
they're used to it.
Yeah, when I, you know, again, as I was watching all this, yeah, I was one of the people on the Red Line train when the Red Line had a crash last year, and everyone on my train was like, you know, calling people, checking Facebook, checking Twitter, trying to figure out what was going on, and there was nothing from their official Twitter feed. There was nothing on their Facebook page for far too long. And when there was, you know, these things, they had a Facebook page for a while, which they've since taken down. But they had a Facebook page for a while where this kind of stuff would go up. They clearly did some more experimentation, putting some other kinds of things up, and every single time they put up anything, they'd have like 12 comments just trashing for whatever. Nothing related to the status update, not related to the status update. It was like people were following them, in order to have them post an update and then to like post whatever their complaint was about Metro right now. And it really was not an effective, like, positive outreach tool for Metro. And, you know, I think they're struggling with it. I know they're struggling with it. Just kind of Googling around on their experience, I can see people are talking about their, you know, they've now taken down their Facebook site and they're, you know, apparently experimenting with some other things. But, you know, I guess my point in putting this up there is that just doing it is not necessarily a good thing or not necessarily helpful. And it may or may not be for you if you're not ready to sort of launch something, that you're ready to think about what it is that you want that presence to be to the community that you're trying to reach. And that just social media is not necessarily something that you should enter into for the wrong reasons or in the wrong ways. People who do it great, the model I was watching, and I was, you know, home during snowpocalypse, the big snowstorm that we had here in January. And the DC Department of Transportation was awesome. They were active, they were making announcements, they were telling you things long before you would see anything in the news about what was going on. They were getting all kinds of, I mean, you would never think that in the midst of a big snowstorm, and they definitely, they got flack from the, you know, mayor's office and the council, but like the press was kind of giving them a lot of credit in the course of the storm and in clearing things in the storm, mostly because the press was following them on Twitter and was seeing them engaging with the community. And you can see the conversation happening on Twitter, where somebody would write in, they would tweet a complaint, and somebody at the Department of Transportation would get right back to them and, you know, ask them which block they were on so that they could come out and deal with the snow removal problem. Or, you know, just very, very dynamic. And if you were somebody who was on Twitter and felt like just complaining about a government agency and complaining to a government agency, and I'm getting those all the time now, and they were getting those, but they were responding to them, and you could see them responding to them. And just the fact that those other people could then not only see their own complaints responded to, but could see the way that they were responding to others. It was this window into a government agency doing its job and being responsive in a way that is a very difficult window for you to see normally when you're the consumer on the other end lodging the complaints and getting voicemail, or, you know, maybe getting a helpful person on the phone. But short of doing a whole lot of outreach and, you know, getting somebody from, you know, local news to come out and do a, you know, snapshot of you answering your phones and seeing how busy your agency is, nobody really gets that window into actually seeing responsiveness. And so it's really a kind of a neat way that people are able to see that on Twitter. And then I also had an example up here of an agency that was doing a fantastic job of it on Facebook, again, back during the snowstorm as I was watching. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue has this really active page where they put in all kinds of safety tips, and, you know, some people get into following that on Facebook. I don't personally, but, you know, every time there's a crib recall or, you know, whatever it is, they put this stuff up on their Facebook page. But again, they've had and I don't know how much, maybe the people in the front rows can see this, I don't know if anybody can in the back, but I just was scrolling back through as I was watching during the snowpocalypse, and I just scrolled back through yesterday to go find this exchange that had been so striking to me as I was watching. And I don't even remember what it was that they were posting, you know, some kind of an update on something during the snowstorm. And someone did exactly the Metro thing. They went in and they just complained about the lack of responsiveness and just kind of a generalized complaint about, you know, government needing to come out and deal with, actually it was plowing snow, which isn't even fire and rescue's responsibility, but it was just this citizen complaint. And immediately people at the agency are commenting right back in the Facebook comment field and are asking him, you know, are checking to see where he is, you know, telling him where to call, giving him the phone numbers to call in order to deal with the situation he was describing. You know, you could see a conversation happening on the comment page on the Facebook site between two different employees at the agency, where somebody was obviously trying to help, and then somebody else was saying, well, you know, if he lives where whitepages.com says he lives, then he actually lives in the county and not in the city. And it's this window into people at an agency being accessible and responsive that just made it play well. And it was like the opposite of Metro's non-responsiveness to exactly the same kinds of complaints. And so this was kind of an important thing to me in watching this exchange, and it made me decide I wasn't doing Facebook. I decided I do Facebook personally, and if anybody wants to friend me on Facebook, you can see lots of pictures of my kids. But I didn't want to take on the obligation of being responsive like this.